What if I told you that one of the first families to ever set foot in New York, a pair of young refugees fleeing war, would become the ancestors of presidents, tycoons, movie stars, and more than 1 million Americans alive today? I'm standing on the Brooklyn waterfront, looking across the East River at the lights of Manhattan. 400 years ago, this very shoreline was wilderness, and somewhere near here, my 8th great-grandparents began a story that still shapes this city. January 1624. A winter gale is tearing across the North Atlantic. On the deck of a small Dutch ship called the Eendracht, 2 teenagers cling to the railing. Just 4 days earlier, they were married in a quiet church in Amsterdam. Now they are sailing into the unknown with almost nothing, except each other and a desperate hope for a new life. That young man was Joris Jansen Rapalje. His bride was Catalina Trico, and I am one of their more than 1 million living descendants. This is the story of how 2 Walloon immigrants helped birth New York. Wait a second. Why would 2 young Walloons leave their homeland for a dangerous trip across the ocean for an unknown future working for the Dutch West India Company? And why would this Dutch company pay the passage of a young, inexperienced French-speaking couple? To answer the second question first, the Dutch West India Company had already learned from their experience elsewhere that single men leave their colony as soon as they can, and couples are more likely to stay. So the Rapalje couple was brought on board as a calculated business decision, not a utopian dream. They wanted to establish a beachhead in the New World. The young couple had their own reasons for signing with the Dutch company. They were among many French-speaking Protestants from Hainaut and Valenciennes who had fled north to escape Spanish rule and a low-country version of the Inquisition. Their country had been taken from them, and the Dutch company offered them land in the New World. In the end, it was a fairly simple transaction. Undaunted, Joris and Catalina left Amsterdam aboard the ship Unity in January 1624, among the very first families sent to North America by the Dutch West India Company. They were put ashore at Fort Orange, present-day Albany. Fort Orange was established as a trading outpost that required workers and soldiers. There, on June 9, 1625, Catalina gave birth to their daughter Sarah, the first recorded European Christian female child born in New Netherland. In 1626, due to threats from native nations, most of the civilians in Fort Orange, including the Rapalje family, were moved downriver to the new settlement of New Amsterdam on the tip of Manhattan. As New Amsterdam grew, so did the Rapalje's influence. Joris became a member of the Council of 12 Men, one of the first representative bodies in colonial America. Their tavern became a hub for trade and politics. Their children married into other prominent Dutch families, weaving the Rapaljes into the fabric of early New York society. They weren't just present at the birth of the city, they helped raise it. In 1637, Joris purchased 335 acres at Wallabout Bay on Long Island, one of the earliest land grants in what would become Brooklyn. The family settled there and raised 11 children. Their daughters married into other founding New Netherland families, Bergen, Bogart, Remsen, and Vandervoort. Sarah alone had 15 children across 2 marriages. Through hardship, war, and the English takeover of 1664, the Rapaljes endured and multiplied. As their 8th great-grandson, standing on the ground they once farmed, it feels deeply personal. Patriot prisoners were held in Wallabout Bay aboard British prison ships, including HMS Jersey. Overcrowding, disease, starvation, and foul air contributed to an estimated 11,000 deaths. More Americans died aboard these floating prisons than in the war's battles combined. Joris Rapalje's Wallabout Bay became a U.S. Navy operations center in 1801. The Brooklyn Navy Yard later served as one of America's premier shipbuilding facilities, reaching peak activity during World War II. Cornelius Vanderbilt, the Commodore, was the fourth great-grandson of Joris Rapalje. He built his enormous wealth in the railroad and shipping businesses. Although the wealth of Cornelius Vanderbilt persisted for several generations, it was largely dissipated by the 21st century. However, his descendants, and thus the descendants of the Rapaljes, remained in the public spotlight. Gloria Vanderbilt was, like me, the Rapalje's eighth great-grandchild. Another descendant of Joris and Catalina Rapalje was Humphrey Bogart. He and I are both eighth great-grandsons, although Humphrey was born 49 years before me. Another connection to the Rapaljes is the 26th President of the United States, the New Yorker, Theodore Roosevelt. Teddy was another American trailblazer who placed great value on the land and the people. The trials and tribulations of the resolute Rapaljes resulted in the American dream. Their descendants were wealthy tycoons, movie stars, and a president. However, things did not always go smoothly. Success can blind and derail the trajectory of some branches of a family. More than a century after Joris and Catalina first cleared the land at Wallabout, their great-great-grandsons John and Garrett Rapalje still lived on that same ground. John was a wealthy politician and a committed loyalist. When the revolution came, he chose the crown. Patriots tarred and feathered him. His brother Garrett was imprisoned. In the chaos, John fled, first to Nova Scotia, then to England, taking with him the early Dutch records of Brooklyn. Those records have never fully returned. In 1779, the new American government confiscated his farm under the Act of Attainder. 22 years later, in 1801, the United States established the Brooklyn Navy Yard on the very soil where Joris had once planted his first crops and where John had made his last stand. In 1627, Joris and Catalina's second child, Merity or Maria, was born in Manhattan after they were forced to leave Fort Orange. She was apparently the third European child born in what is now New York State, as another Walloon family gave birth to a son earlier. Maria was my seventh great-grandmother after marrying Michael Vandervoort in 1640. Maria relocated to the Maryland colony with Michael before the British took control of New York in 1664. More about the Vandervoorts in later videos.